This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com and Review. What I'm looking at today is 2018's Winchester, directed by the Spierig Brothers. And this is a fascinating movie because, first off, that house, as pictured, is real. What came to be known as the Winchester Mystery House was built in 1884 by Sarah Winchester. And the story behind this is fascinating, most of which has become lost to time, in the sense that it's been said that she built the house as she did because she was told by a medium that she was cursed by all the people who had died by Winchester rifles. The Winchester fortune was made off of firearms, rifles in particular. And she was told by this medium that to build the house would, in such a manner, a chaotic, unplanned, confusing manner, would confuse the spirits that had come to haunt her. Now, the thing of it is, from what I've read, that's not actually true. The reason why she built the house as she did isn't exactly known. But that being said, the way she built the house gives credence to those myths because it has doors opening upon walls. It has skylights in the floor. It has rooms that do all sorts of odd, weird things. As I mentioned, it's built without any real plan to it. Since she started building it in 1884, she added additions and additions to it. It started off as actually a small, relatively small farmhouse, and she kept building on it and adding more to it with no rhyme or reason. It's not at all surprising that a more supernatural reason for her doing so came to pass. And look at her life for a moment. Her husband, William Winchester, who died in 1881, they had a child. Now, before the death of her husband, her child died. Lived, I believe, somewhere in the ballpark of 3 weeks of marasmus, which is a wasting disease. As I said, the story of her seeing a medium and having been told by her husband beyond the grave, no less, that she needed to build the house in this way to confuse the spirits which would plague her, is not held up to scrutiny. But that being said, her life is fascinating, and any movie based upon that life should be at the very least interesting. And that's really what makes Winchester such a fascinating movie. It's so remarkably boring. How can you have a movie, you might ask, that's boring, that stars Helen Mirren, the gorgeous Helen Mirren, Jason Clarke, Angus Sampson? I don't know how they did it either, but this movie is just deadly dull. It was directed by the Spierig Brothers, who did Daybreakers, as well as, most recently, Jigsaw. And it's a good-looking movie. The production design, seeing that they copied the Winchester House in Australia, where this movie was filmed, looks gorgeous. It's such a good-looking movie. It has so many high-caliber actors in it, but it's just so dull, which is weird because if you look at the pictures from that house, the place just exudes atmosphere. It's naturally creepy, but for whatever reason, this movie isn't. It's hard to watch. And it's not a bad movie. I want to get that across. I don't think the Spierig Brothers have done many bad movies that I've seen of theirs at any rate. It's just so dull. There's some jump scares. They're interesting. But there's not a lot there to keep you engaged in this movie. If you have a chance to see Winchester, I would check it out. It's not a good movie. Oh, by the way, I wanted to mention that there was an episode of Half in the Bag where they reviewed this movie, and rightly so, they panned it. But Jay Bauman mentioned about things blowing up and so on. That's actually based on truth. The house was caught in the 1906 San Francisco earthquake. So that those events were depicted on screen is not the fault of the filmmakers. That actually happened. that house was indeed caught in the earthquake. And in fact, I believe it was originally, I want to say 7 stories. It's now 4 because earthquake damage. So the house falling to pieces and so on, that's not fake. That being said, Winchester, when it came out, was something that I wanted to see in theaters. Thank the gods I didn't, because this movie is just not, it's not worthy of a theatrical release. If it weren't for the caliber of the actors in it, this probably wouldn't have gotten a theatrical release. And if that were the case, I think we'd all be the better for it. This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com and Review. Peace.